All right, welcome to another episode of It's 502 Somewhere, where we talk to the different people that make up the culture and identity of the city of Louisville. I'm your host, Andrew Crum, and I'm very excited to have a very special guest on this show. You may know her from her time at the University of Louisville women's volleyball team, where she was, this is a long list, three-time first All ACC, two second team All ACC, top 10 in most kills in UofL history, top 10 in most blocks, top 10 in most total aces. Reached the national championship in 2022, was on the NCAA All National Championship tournament team, now playing professionally with the Atlanta Vibe, and has recently become an assistant coach for the Bellarmine Knights. Aiko Jones, how are you today?
I am great. Happy to be here. Honored to be here, and happy to be back in Louisville.
And we're happy to have you on the show. So, just jumping right into it, if you could tell us just a little bit about your upbringing and where you're from.
Right. So I was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica. Actually in St. Andrew, Jamaica, which is a little outside of the city of Kingston, but Kingston's more recognizable. And both my parents played volleyball, and so I kind of was born into the sport, and I fell in love with it. And I told them I wanted to play at the highest level and see how far the sport could take me. And it's kind of a long story of how I ended up in Louisville, but my dad had connections in Nebraska. So I went to a Nebraska volleyball camp where I met the Louisville head coach that coached me throughout my career, Danny Busboom Kelly. She ended up leaving Nebraska and coming to Louisville. She sold me on the place, had me come on a visit here. I fell in love with it, and it became my home since touching down in the end of June 2018. Got my undergrad degrees there, played volleyball, of course, all the way throughout, and got my master's degree in communication there as well. And of course, went to Atlanta this past season, but Louisville will always be home for me, apart from Jamaica. But it's my U.S. home, and I think I'm always going to find my way back here somehow.
Absolutely. And you kind of touched on like three of my next questions. So we'll kind of go through it real quick. So, was volleyball, as you said, kind of your parents? It was kind of something that was instilled with you at a young age. Around what age do you think you were when you kind of knew, like, okay, volleyball isn't something that I just enjoy, but it's something that maybe I can take to like another level?
Yeah, that's such a hard question. Mostly because when I was younger, wanted to be in the WNBA. I
Oh,
was convinced I was going to be in the WNBA. I had never played basketball, but I just loved the physicality of the sport. I loved to shoot a ball in a hoop. And it just so happened that my high school in Jamaica did not have a basketball team.
mhm,
And so I never got the opportunity to get that true taste of basketball.
dang.
But volleyball was a constant in my life leading up to going to high school and, of course, after. And I did track, I threw discus, shot put, javelin, I did a little bit of high jump, I danced, I played a sport called netball, which is very close to basketball, just more European. There's a smaller hoop, there's no backboard, and you can't dribble. So it's a lot more technical. But I did a wide range of sports. I grew up playing tennis, we took swimming lessons, we did gymnastics. I have a black belt in Seido Karate also. But
Ooh,
all of that to say that I tried all these different things, and something always pulled me to volleyball. So to answer your question, if I had to think of an age, I would have to say maybe 10 when I
mhm,
knew for sure. Just because, well, one, I kind of knew what high school I wanted to go to, and I knew they didn't have a basketball team. I hoped they would get one, but I knew they didn't have one. And 10 is when I started to play, I think, on my mom's club team. And of course, you have to kind of want to be there on the weekends and want to do late night practices to do that. So I would say 10. And if not 10, it would be early 11 when I got to high school and I realized, like, yeah, this is a sport I want to do. I don't care about any other sport. And that's what I started with. And then I added other sports along the way. And then I actually ended up finishing with just volleyball too by my senior year. But yeah, I'd say 10.
there we go. And when you made, at I don't know, you can tell us what age you made the jump to Jamaican Senior National Team. What was that experience like, and what was it like at that young age being able to represent your home country?
Absolutely. I still long for the next opportunity that I get to represent the national team. The stars just haven't aligned for the timing of that yet. But it was 2017, I believe. It was either June or July of 2017, and then again in October of 2017. So the year before I came to Louisville, I'd say it was my senior year of high school. And if it was 2017, it means I was 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the youngest person on the team. And throughout my years of high school, I mean, when I knew volleyball was for me, I said at 10, and I wanted to represent the Jamaica on the junior national team. And throughout my years of being of age to be on the junior national team, we did not send a junior national team to competition for funding or coaching or availability, a lot of stuff. And so when I got the call, they said, "Hey, we want you to come try out for the senior team." I mean, for me, yes, it was shocking, but I was just like, this would be a great opportunity to play with people that are better than me, to learn from those kind of people. And I don't remember exactly how I felt in the moment, but I don't remember being scared or timid to show up for practice. I remember being really excited. Of course, I was nervous to play. And of course, when I finally made the team and we traveled, but I don't remember being scared of the opportunity. I remember being super, super excited to now get to play with people that I've watched play and like look up to all my years, and to wear Jamaica's national colors. I mean, that was something I'd always wanted to do and never got the shot. And so, I mean, it was great.
And that's an amazing story, especially playing with people you watch grow up. It's got to be a cool feeling. And
Oh, so good.
and when before you kind of got to Louisville, was that something you always knew that you had wanted to come to the United States to play volleyball?
My whole thing was I wanted to see how far volleyball could take me. And in Jamaica, volleyball can only take you so far. And so I knew that I'd have to leave the country. And in track and field or soccer, or even basketball in Jamaica, your path to the next highest level is to go to the NCAA, or to just go to the US, where the US has better sports for so many reasons. There's much more resources. There's many more people. And so I knew I had to leave the country, and that was my goal. It was like, okay, after high school, let's see what I can do next. And that was, okay, let's see if I can make it D1. Because of course, it's not guaranteed. It's really, really hard, especially in Jamaica where we don't have club volleyball. We don't have that framework, that kind of feeder system for college the way the US does. And so, yeah, I knew I had to leave the country. And I, even at that point, knew, okay, if I make it to college in the US, my next step is to play pro in Europe. It just so happens that now we have pro in the US, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But my thing was always, this is where I'm at now, and I want to keep going. What's that next step for me? And so I knew it had to be the US.
Absolutely. And then that next step ended up taking you to the University of Louisville. What stood out to you about Louisville from the get go and head coach Danny Busboom Kelly that swayed you to UofL?
I tell Danny I'd follow her anywhere. And now she's at Nebraska. And if, not that this is going to happen, but if she were to call me tomorrow and be like, Aiko, we want you here, I mean, it would be a tough way. It would be a tough decision to say no to her, because I tell her I was going to go to her at Nebraska. She came to Louisville. Sorry about that. I was going to go to her at Nebraska. She came to Louisville, and I followed her here. And I tell her all the time I'd follow her anywhere. And so what I fell in love with Danny was just, she seemed to care. Right. And of course you want to win games, but she seemed to really care. She and Todd flew to Jamaica to come see me, see where I played high school, see where I played club. They came to my house. Like, they wanted to get to know who I was and who they were bringing to their team. And that meant a lot to me, knowing that my journey was different from every other player that they would have ever gotten. And then when I came, I learned that they do that for everyone, even the people in the US, which is amazing, because they just seem to care about the person that they're recruiting, less about the, not less about the player, but just as much as the skill that person's bringing in. And so that drew me to Danny, and her whole staff was like that. And now that she's in Nebraska, Dan Meskey, I mean, he's like that too, down to the director of ops, new dietitians, trainers, everyone around that local volleyball program really cares about you. And so I felt safe leaving my country and moving away and not knowing anyone or anything. And I just felt like Danny and Dan and Todd and Sarah, and then it was Allegra and Nick and Sean Smith, our strength coach. I just felt like they would take care of me, and they did. And so it was great. But Louisville itself, I mean, Jamaica's really small. And the longer I'm in the US, the more I realize how small Jamaica is compared to just states and cities here. But they kind of took me around town. I mean, we got to Wagner's and Churchill Downs, we got to campus, we got to the Yums, we got downtown, and we got down Bardstown Road, and it kind of felt like a small town to me. Of course, the longer I stayed, I realized it was a big city with a small town feel. But I liked that. I liked how many restaurants there were. I liked that there was things to do. But most of all, it was the volleyball program that I felt like, even if I hated this city, that I'd be taken care of and I'd find a place where I belong. And that was just huge for me.
Absolutely. So going into your career at U of L, you redshirted your first year, then kind of had the breakthrough the next year in 2019, which I feel like that year kind of ultimately started the run that the program is on now. You guys went to the Elite Eight. What was it about that team, that first team, that led to this new, or what was it about that team that led to this new surge in excellence? And kind of how did it feel to be a part of that? Something kind of new and special for the program.
Man, I mean, it still feels great looking back. And not looking back and saying, oh, we were the reason, but looking back and seeing, well, in 2019 we did this, in 2021 we did that, and to just see like how we've continued to improve just the program and get the program back to where it once was. I mean, we were a great program and we had a couple years where we kind of fell short of what our goals were as a program, and then we were kind of able to get back there, and now we're one of the powerhouses of volleyball in the country, which is amazing to see and look back on. But I think Danny and Dan and Todd, or Danny and Dan and Colby O'Donnell at the time, they came in 2017, and they had a vision for where this program could be. They wanted to restore the order. They had that on a shirt. And on that shirt, they had like a chip on the shoulder. They wanted to get that program back to where it was. And so when they recruited me in my class, which you could argue was their first recruiting class, like that was kind of theirs, they sold us on their vision. And so we all came in buying into that vision, knowing the work it was going to take to get where those coaches saw the program going. And so I think what it was is we came in 2018, we put our head down and we learned a lot from the seniors and the upperclassmen that were there. And then in 2019, my recruiting class, we had some more experience. And I remember that summer of 2019, man, we were in the weight room every day. We would run the cardio path. I mean, I have Snapchat memories of us sweating with our legs like elevated on the wall outside the weight room. And it was our motto was big rings. And it was like, this is what we're going for. And I remember that summer so vividly because we brought in a couple transfers. We brought in a new recruiting class. And like I said, like these are the people that are buying into that vision. And so it was just nose to the grindstone every day in the summer. And then we start preseason and it was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And I mean, I could talk on and on and on about that season, but halfway through the season, our senior goes down with an ACL. She's out. I mean, we're at Notre Dame. She goes down. We call her Miss Mel because she's a teacher. But Melanie McHenry, she's out for the season, and all of a sudden we've lost the only person that would have graduated that year. So we've lost our senior, our captain, that presence on the court. And I mean, we end up taking that game 5 and winning without Mel, which for us, we were a super young team, was just mind blowing. Us and Notre Dame had this kind of rivalry at the time. We always went 5 sets. And I really think, I mean, that game, it lit something in us. And we didn't go on to win the rest of the season. We had a really rough season leading into the conference. And there was someone in the media, I forget their name. I never actually knew their name because it didn't really matter. But they tweeted something like WKU gets a weak Louisville team limping into the tournament.
Mm.
And we sent that tweet in the group chat and we are like, okay, this is how you feel about us. That's fine. And we had actually played WKU earlier that year. We were their only loss on the season going into the Bowling Green Regional. We get to WKU. They try to get us in the presser to talk about WKU. We're like, well, we're focused on Sanford, who we played in the first round. And we beat Sanford. We go on to beat WKU. Their only 2 losses on the year. They send us to Texas. Number 2 team in the country, in their home gym. And boy, I mean, like, it was like everything we did in the summer, that nose to the grindstone, like all that stuff. It was like we went up 2-0 on that game. And I remember running back to the locker room. Just the only thing I was like, oh my God, is this happening? We come back out, they even the score, we go 5. I'm pretty sure we were up like 9-2 or something crazy before the half, 7-2, something crazy. I don't remember the final score. We beat Texas, and it's like, we didn't do that. Like, that's not real. And then we go on, we get smacked by Minnesota, but it was like, we were on such a high because that was not supposed to happen. I mean, Texas hadn't been upset at home in so long. And I mean, I like to say, I mean, that guy said we limped into the tournament, but I say we left with a pimp walk because we really kind of strolled out of Austin like we owned the place. All of that to say, it started that summer. Well, it started with the vision from the coaches, and they sold us on it. They brought in people that bought into their vision. That summer, we laid the foundation. We worked really, really, really hard. And it was like, it wasn't easy, but Danny, Dan, Todd, They bring in people that work well together. They bring in people. I mean, they, like I said, they sold us on the vision. And so we had each other's backs. And then after that, I mean, the city bought in. Now there's little girls who are like, oh, wait, I have good volleyball in my backyard. We start selling out more games in LNN. Louisville, University of Louisville's like, we have to put y'all in the Yum Center. We start upping our attendance in the Yum Center. We get more games in Yum Center every year. I mean, of course, COVID like kind of put a dent in that progress, but it was 2019 was the year where we kind of, I don't want to say we turned the program around. We were a good program, but it lit something. And then we kept bringing in people who bought into the vision. And I mean, the energy in the Louisville volleyball gym is so contagious that we just kept going and going and going. And every year it was like, okay, last year we remembered how we felt when we lost and we didn't get to that next round. We don't want to feel that again. It didn't always work out that way, like going up and going up, but it was like we had that feeling. But a lot of us still knew how it felt to win in 2019. And like, so we were kind of chasing that feeling, not that team or those statistics, but chasing that feeling and running away from the feeling we felt the year before. And I think we keep bringing in people that buy into that and want to win. And it's just been amazing to see the growth of the program. And I come to games now and I sit in the stands, and it's really hard for me not to run down and like beg them to let me serve a ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But 2019 was a year, and I think about it all the time.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you laid the foundation for what came next. We had the weird COVID year, everything. And then you have 21, you go undefeated, you make the Final Four, ultimately losing to Wisconsin. But how was that team? Because in the next year, ultimately making the national championship game, how was the team able to bounce back and then take that further next step to making that championship game?
Right. I have to give a lot of credit to our coaches. I mean, each year they tell us, I mean, I'll put this example. The Texas game in 2019, I hit 1,000 for the first two sets. I made no errors. I killed every ball. Unheard of. I was a redshirt freshman. It was my first year playing. There's a lot of things that went into that. That very next year, I was trying to beat Texas Aiko. That's what we call her. And the coaches were straight up with me and they said, look, that was great, but you'll probably never be her again. And we don't expect you to be that person. And so every year it was, this year's team is different from last year's team. Even if all the starters were the same, they were like, this year's team is different from last year's team. Last year was great, and we would love to do that again, but it's not gonna look the same. And so they were very quick to remind us it's hard work every year. We can't depend on last year's hard work to take us that far this year. It's a completely different team. We're going to coach the team differently because the team's different. You have different pieces even on the bench, which made it easier for us to lose. Or I guess in 21 we didn't lose, but it made it easier for us to make mistakes because we knew the expectations were realistic. And so then it became contagious where we didn't expect last year out of anyone. We expected this year. And we knew each year we had to put in the same work or probably more because every year you get better, teams start to play you harder. And so, I mean, it started from the top down and it was so contagious where this year's different. This year we still need to work hard. And then in 21, I feel like we were all waiting for a loss. Like those kinds of seasons are unheard of, and so each game we won, it was like, wow, we're really doing this. But we never went into a game thinking, well, we have 10 wins, we're going to get 11. It was always like, we have 10 wins, we want to get 11, but it's going to take just as much work or more to get there. And I mean, we all had that mindset. 20 people on the team, 20 people had that mindset. Our dietitian had that mindset. Our athletic director had that mindset. It didn't matter how far removed you were from the team. If you were involved in Louisville volleyball, the mindset, the expectation was never to win. The expectation was to work hard. And even our mental performance staff, they were very adamant to remind us, you have to control what you can control. And if you do that throughout the game, I mean, you will likely win, but you can't control the ref. You can't control what the other team does. You can't control the other coach. And so it was just like, we would love to win, but each win, it was like, whoa, this is happening. And then, I mean, you make it all the way to the Final Four. And thankfully, the team we lost to went on to win the national championship. But it's still, I think it sucked more knowing that we hadn't lost all season. And we took them to 5. But the last thing I'll say on that is I have a memory of driving away from that arena in Columbus, and I think it was Columbus, yeah. And some Wisconsin fan, I guess, had a huge sign on the sidewalk, 32-1,
Man.
because we were 32-0 going up to that game. And I
Mhm.
remember seeing it, and I just bawled. I mean, that might have been one of the hardest losses of my career, second only to the loss that ended my college career.
Mhm.
I mean, that one was tough, but the expectation was never to win. The
Mhm.
expectation was always to work hard.
Which then that hard work led to the next season where you guys overcome that Final Four, get to the national championship. Getting to a national, just being in that position, the University of Louisville, we ended up getting to the national championship this year. But what was it like in a sport where, outside in Louisville sports, outside of basketball, they've been in national championships, both men and women. What was it like kind of being also up in that echelon now of, we are in the championship here?
Yeah, surreal. I mean, and sometimes the surreality of it doesn't kick in until after, because when you show up to that game, you're like, okay, this is the game plan. This is what we're gonna do. Um, but I think, and for every year where we made it to the Final Four, we made it to the Elite Eight. I think everyone's experience and thought process was different. But for me, I think back to 2019, where our motto was for the banner. We were going for a black banner, and in our gym, a black banner is a Sweet 16. And so beating Samford to play WKU was us like, that's what we're going for. We want a black banner in our gym. We hadn't had one since however long. And so then 21, we go undefeated. We make it past the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight to the Final Four. It's like, wow, we really have upped our goal, upped our standard. And then in 22, it's like, all right, last year, this is where we made it. We know what happened. Of course, I've mentioned before, we didn't want to feel that, what we felt last year. And so it was like, I don't know. I feel like for us, we always leaned into the work that we had put in prior. And so it's like that year we had gotten through some really tough games that, I mean, flip of a coin, we maybe wouldn't have won if things went other ways. You know what I mean? And so it was kind of like, it's gonna take what it takes. I mean, but it was amazing. Oh, you're one of the last 2 teams? Like, this is a place kids like this is a place people on our team dreamt of being when they were in elementary school, playing club. And so it's surreal. And Omaha, I mean, when we made it to the Final Four in Columbus, they put on a great deal for Final Four teams. Like, they had a little lounge with, like, we got our nails done. We got to make blankets for kids in hospitals. Like, they make you know that you're in the Final Four. And then, man, it was crazy. I don't remember one thought other than walking into the gym on the day of the championship game, taking a pause, just looking around and taking a deep breath, because it goes by so fast. And I wanted to make sure that I remembered that moment, that day, what I was seeing, what I was feeling. And I mean, I don't remember much other than like the game plan, going in there and like working. And another game that didn't go our way, we could have played a lot better that game, but to be there in itself is a win. And so, I mean, we still talk about, I was texting someone last week about the fact that that loss still burns. And it's
Mhm.
so hard to think. People are like, oh my God, you made the national championship game. And for us, it's like, oh my God, we lost in the national championship game. And it's not to be ungrateful, but I mean, when you're a competitor, man, you want it all. And so that one still stings too. But it was just surreal.
Yeah. And us Louisville fan, I mean, we appreciate not only just the work from that year, but all the work that you guys put in from 2019 to 2023 to put the program where it is. So this is a question I ask, at least the people that I've had on the show so far, that I like to ask. As
Yeah.
someone who is from another country, from Jamaica, you've traveled around the country for volleyball, but coming back to Louisville, what sets apart not only the UofL fan base, but also the city of Louisville?
I mean, other than it being personal, like, this is my home crowd, this is my city, this is my fan base. For me, coming from another country, And also now for me being, I'm also a woman of color. So I'm an immigrant, a woman of color, a woman, period. And I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. And from our program to our school, to the parents in our program, to our fans. Like from the day I stepped on campus, I was embraced. The first game that I wore a jersey for, I didn't play my whole freshman year. Of course, you said I was a redshirt. And those fans they still embraced me. They asked me how I was going. They asked me about my family. And these are people that some of them I haven't seen since the one time I've talked to them, right? But when I went to Atlanta, there were people there that once lived in Louisville that were like, "Hey, we came to all your games when you were in college." And it goes back to why I decided to come here, where I felt like I was embraced by the program, but I really was embraced by the city. And of course, as the team got more popular, we got more fans coming in, and they became so invested not just in us on the court, but us off the court, which I think is amazing because I mean, we go through things like when that one reporter told LeBron to shut up and dribble. Like, you're just an athlete, you don't do anything else. Well, that's not true. And I've had so many fans ask me about my mom, who they've never met, my siblings, my wife, my life, what I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna go, like what my plans are, my vacation. Like it's such a warm welcome. And whenever you see a Louisville fan, they'll talk to you. And I just love that. I mean, and especially playing in the especially playing in both arenas, they get so into it. They get so loud. Sometimes they want to boo the ref, and we're like, no, 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 we don't boo. But it's like, I mean, they want us to win, obviously. And I just think win or lose, they're behind us. And so like when we lose in the Yum Center to a really good team, they're clapping us off the court, standing, giving us like that ovation, knowing because they know how bad we wanted it. We play hard for them because they're there and we want to put on a show. But we also know they have fun when we have fun. And they really embrace our program, which I love.
Absolutely. And you and the team have given the city of Louisville. I think it's only right for the city of Louisville to give you guys that back and more. So
Yeah.
we do appreciate you. One question to go away a little bit from volleyball. While you were playing, you have showcased your creative side as well, which is kind of where I met you. Tell us a little bit about some of those passions and those experiences that you've had off the court.
Yeah, I double majored in biology and communication, and Andrew and I met at the Backside Learning Center at Churchill Downs, kind of like the community center for the Backside community, so the jockeys and their families. And I got into that because like you said, I'm a creative. I'm into video and photography. I'm also into spreadsheets and research. And I'm very interested in nonprofits and how video photography and that kind of stuff can help nonprofits get their story out and gain money and kind of serve their communities. And so someone random sent me the job application and was like, this would be cool. And also as a biology major who wanted to go into ecology, being around horses didn't seem too bad. And so that's how Andrew and I met. I loved my time at the BLC. Um, but yeah, I think I really started when my creative side kind of emerged. My mom used to go bird watching and she had a Canon camera with a mega zoom lens. And I loved just taking pictures with her camera of the birds, of anything. Then I got a camera for Christmas and I would take it everywhere we went. My volleyball team trips, my field trips, I'd take it to school events and I would just take pictures. I loved capturing like candid joy of people, but I also loved nature, flowers, birds, trees, landscape, all that stuff. And that just brings me joy. And then as I went through college, I fell in love with telling a story. I think that if you're going to sell me on something, you've got to tell me a story. And I am very fascinated with the effect that storytelling has. And storytelling isn't just reading a book. I also learned that through college. It's a photograph that can tell a story. They say a picture tells 1,000 words. A video can tell a story. All that stuff. And so I like to study things that I like. So I got a communications degree. And the more I learned, the more I was like, this would be so cool. When I came to college, I would vlog. I thought that was a good way for my high school friends and my family, my grandparents to kind of keep up with what I was doing. And I loved editing the vlogs. I had a lot of vlogs that I edited and never posted because I didn't like the content, but I loved putting together that story. And that's kind of where my creative side comes is I love a story. I love an impact. I love to change my community. And I love that I can do that through storytelling and through creative outlets that I think are really fun. So that's me. I'm a photographer, videographer, graphic designer. And then I got to photograph the 150th Derby on the Churchill Downs
Wow.
photography team, which was kind of full circle, working on the back side and then working on the front side. But that was me being a creative, but also being a Louisville native. You know what I mean? So that was kind of
Yeah.
like amazing, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, congratulations on that too. And then
thank
speaking of congratulations in your professional endeavors in volleyball, you played professionally for the Atlanta Vibe. Question that I have, just, what do you think has separated like the pro and the college games for you? Like what are kind of the major differences in those game styles, etc.?
definitely speed of the game. The game against some teams is a lot faster than in a college team. And so for me, eye work or just reacting faster has been a huge, huge, huge importance in kind of playing at that level. I would also say the general coach athlete relationship or athlete athlete relationship. In college, you're in school and then you go to practice, right? As a pro, it's literally your job. In college, it was like you had two jobs. You were a student, you're an athlete, but of course, they remind you you're a student first. In pro, it's you wake up, you go to work, you go home, you go to sleep, you wake up, you go back to work. Work just happens to be a sport. And so I find that even like in our program, it was less of like with our coaches, it was less of like, oh, this is my mom. It was more of like, this is my coach, but we could laugh about the same jokes. Like it, not to say there isn't that hard cutoff of that hierarchy, but it's definitely like a little closer in terms of just like, well, we're closer in age for one. Um, and they tell you what they expect and they expect you to do it. They're less, it's a little less over your shoulder, a little less, you need to be here on time. It's like, if you're here on time, amazing. If you're not, consequences. I mean, it's so it really, really, really is a job. And then the other thing is the teams are still close, but in a different way. Like I feel like in college, it's like, oh, these are my sisters. And for me, it's like these would be my sisters for life. And it's like we go home, we live in the same house, we eat the same meals. When we travel in college, you do a food order. We all eat from the same place. In the pros, you get per diem, you eat whatever you want. They don't care. In college, they were like, okay, we're playing tonight, so no Alfredo or no queso. In the pros, it's like if you want McDonald's, you can eat McDonald's. Like there's a lot more autonomy. Is that the
Yep.
word? A lot more with the pros, and then it's we see each other less, not because we like each other any less as a team. But like you go home. Some of us have two jobs and we go home and we do work. Some people were in school, they went home and they studied. But I mean, we go to work and we go home. It's very, very different, but
Yeah.
not in a bad way.
And speaking of, and this will be my last question before we do a little rapid fire round at the end here.
Yeah,
You recently became an assistant coach for Bellarmine volleyball team. Congrats. Has this always been an aspiration of yours? And as you are in the coaching world, what do you hope to instill not only in your young players, but maybe also athletes who might be making a similar journey from overseas?
absolutely. I did not want to be a coach. I My wife would ask me all the time, "Do you want to coach? Do you want to coach?" I do not want to coach. No, no, I don't have the patience. I don't want to do it. But through college, your college coaches host summer camps. And every year I looked forward to working them because I looked forward to connecting with the kids. I was like, I couldn't wait for camp because I couldn't wait to see my kids from last year. And I couldn't wait to be able to meet more kids and answer their questions and kind of maybe be the highlight of their summer. I think it's so cool the impact that we as college and now pro athletes have on kids of the next generation. I mean, there's some kids that are having the worst school year of their life and they come to camp and it's like we get an email after their parents are like, "Look, you guys really turned her week around." And I take that personally, not because I feel good like, "Oh, I did that," but because it's an honor to be able to do that, I think. And so for me, I always look forward to camps. And I mean, I dread being on my feet all day, but I never dreaded the coaching aspect of it. And so the older I got, I was still like, I didn't want to coach, but I knew I wanted to work with kids. And I think, I don't know, I think it's within the last year that I decided, okay, maybe I do want to coach. And I think what it was is I finished playing in December 2023. I graduated college in May of 2024. And that whole summer, I gave private lessons and I loved it. I loved being able to help those kids feel better about playing. And I also had felt the sense of pride giving it back to Louisville, paying it forward, being able to invest in the city that built me, you know? And so after playing pro too, I mean, I love my pro coach, Kayla Banworth, love her. I loved all my coaches at Louisville. And I think it would be really cool, as much as I love connecting with the kids and giving back, it would be really cool to be the coach that I was fortunate enough to have for someone else. There was this TikTok trend a while back where college players were kind of sharing their horror stories with coaches. And it reminded me how fortunate I was to have the coaches that I had. And so my goal is to be the coach I wanted and the coach I got for someone else. And I take a lot of pride in that and being able to have the opportunity to do that and to have that impact. So for me, it's connecting, obviously, but paying it forward to the city that built me. So I'm really happy that I'm back here, back in Uvel with Bellarmine especially. And it's just, I want to build a sport. I want to build kids up. And this is a good way I think I can do that.
Yeah, and it's amazing full circle of everything
Oh yeah, it's
with your
crazy.
journey too. So thank you for being here. I have one final segment. We'll keep it rapid fire. Don't know what the name of the segment is yet. We'll call it Crumb's Corner right now.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you. I've got about 6 or 7 just kind of rapid fire questions. Some of them you can think about a little bit because it's not too rapid fire. But
Okay.
anyway, I'll start it off. Here we go. All right. What was your least favorite place to play in the ACC?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. All right. Best piece of advice Coach DBK ever gave you in your time at UofL?
Oh God. Rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire.
You can take some time to think if you if
I
you
mean,
need a.
I don't think it's not advice, but I,
Okay.
of course, always had doubts. And when I had doubts about going pro, Danny was like, Aiko, are you serious? You can go pro and you're going to be so good. And then I was like, all right, I
Okay.
heard it from the woman herself.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the best advice you can get. Sometimes just somebody telling you,
Yeah.
yes, you can do it. All right. Favorite restaurant in Louisville?
Oh gosh. Okay, I have to give you two because one of them's in New Albany. It's Board and U Bistro
Okay.
in Louisville. Maybe Dragon King's daughter. Yeah.
Those are good selections. All right. Have you seen the show Survivor?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you have a game of Survivor. It is you and all of your former U of L volleyball teammates. Who do you think would stand victorious at the end of that game of Survivor?
Oh my goodness. Victorious at the end of Survivor. And you win the
Whoever
council
wins.
votes you, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think Jamie Vassileau.
There we go. And where is anywhere in the world you would like to visit you have not been before?
I need to snorkel the Great Barrier Reef before it's gone. So
Ooh,
Australia.
okay. Great pick. All right, 2 more. Dream event to photograph.
Kentucky Derby.
To me,
Um,
there.
um, maybe the NCAA National Championship for volleyball.
That would be a great one too. So one final question. This is don't have to be rapid fire. You can think about it for a second, but top moment as a U of L volleyball player.
Oh my goodness.
It can
Okay.
be one of them. Yeah.
Well, there's one, and it's probably not what anyone would think. And it's very personal. But there was a day where, of course, we had practice, but there were some protests on campus that were in relation to one of my identities, protesting against them. And I told my teachers I wasn't coming to class because I didn't want to walk through campus. But I showed up to practice, and my teammates met me outside the building and walked me in so that I felt safe. Not that anyone was going to attack me, but our mental performance coach actually met me at my car and she was going to walk me in, and we got halfway and I saw the entire team walking towards me. And they met me where I was on the street and we walked into the building together. And for me, that kind of encompassed what Louisville volleyball was to me. And I'm tearing up just a little because, like I told you, they embraced me for who I was and always did, even the new people that came in. And so that day it was like, no matter what our beliefs are, we understand what you're feeling right now. And we want you to know that we are with you. And I mean, I'm on the side of the street, broke down crying. I'm a crier. But that would probably be my top moment of my entire 6 years at Louisville.
Yeah, and that's incredible, honestly. So, Aiko, Thank you so much for joining. We met a couple years ago. I'm very excited that we could reunite for this episode, learning about not just your journey at U of L, but just your journey in your life, whether it's, back home in Jamaica, whether it's creatively, where it's professionally now in volleyball and in the coaching world. So I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this to come out, and I'm just super excited to be back in Louisville. So it was great. Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to try this sign out for the first time ever. Folks listening, just remember it's 502 somewhere. Catch you later, guys.